Just fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. You know, this laptop is literally about 2.5 meters away from the router, from the wireless signal that is connecting to this laptop. 2.5 meters away. It fucks me off. Thank you, Lana, and that very kind of optimistic, lovely little cute smiley emoji there. And hello, Michael. Thank you for coming back. Look me. You see, and when I flow, I think people engage more because it's completely organic. You know, and then something like that, it fucks everything up, and then you have to start from scratch again. I didn't even get to read everyone's comments. So theoretically speaking, the next live stream will be wired to the modem, wired. So none of this glitchy shit. Do you have many programs running in the background? None, Lana, none. That was one of the first things I wanted to make sure and check on first. I wanted this to go nice and smoothly and by the numbers. And it's just, again, would it have made a difference if I'd have just stayed in the fucking dining room and did it from there? Probably not. Now, questions should start to be asked, I think, if I still have problems with a wired connection, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But there was loads of comments that I didn't get to respond to then, and that fucking does my head in. Let me just go and get a top up, right? I won't be long. Fucking hell. Tech. Let's go back to Stone Age. Right, should we try again? I've noticed that either just kind of getting in front of the camera and I'm just all glitchy, you know? Oh dear. What a fuck about. Oh, do you the algorithm sucks. It can't handle a truth channel. Yeah, and do you know what? There's a few channels out there that are doing the right thing, you know. And I've heard him saying, you know, my videos just don't get pushed and this and that, and even though my channel's monetized, not my channel, never. Well, they've monetized their channel and they're just getting pennies because you get flack when you're over the target. It's a World War II saying, and they don't want to push stuff like that. So And especially when you've got a channel that's not monetized, you don't need to worry about saying the wrong thing, saying the wrong fucking word. You don't need to worry about any of that. You've got absolute freedom. And I have put in the comment section, respectfully, you know, as a truther, you are never, ever going to be able to make an income from YouTube as a truther. It's not happening. Not if you're going to do it properly. So just don't come into it with the intention of making, you know, an income off the back of it. I had a rough idea of where this channel was going to go. So I knew monetizing it would be pointless. You know, there's been a few people that have said, why don't you just put a buy me a coffee link somewhere just so you can get a coffee from someone? And this is their words, get a coffee from someone after nearly 6 years worth of content put out there for free. And I just can't do it. I can't do it. Anyway, do you have, where are we? Oh, hey, Emma, don't ever worry about putting messages on there. You know, if you've spelt it wrong or it's kind of looks a bit all over the place to you, we're very good at reading between the lines, sweetheart. So you never need to retract any messages, and you know you've slotted straight in. You're all right, girl. You're all right. Oh yeah, not born in the 80s, born in the 80s when times were good. No mobile phones, no 5G towers, no smart TVs. You fitted in perfectly, Emma. We like you. And you're absolutely spot on. You know, we used to play Bulldog and Knock a Door Run and go scrumping and burn shops down. And no, that was the Hyson Green riots. But yeah, you know, we're the last of a way of life. You see, and I have said this before. Imagine, so think of the yin yang, which is the symbol for this channel, right? And I've got 2 tattoos that are both yin yang related, right? And much more. So imagine seeing everything organic. So your childhood, most of us, because we're all going to be of a similar age, give or take half a decade, right? And the sort of childhood that we had, it was very organic, borderline feral, right? Now, the same aged kids now are just absolutely addicted to tech. You've got families where you get the mum texting the son or the daughter who's upstairs, dinner's ready. It's so fucked up. But Emma, because of when you were born, I think you'll always keep it real, especially if you're here in this live stream. You're here because you're connecting with it, you know. Oh dear. Hello, Dave. Hello, Joe. Hello, Rosie. You all right, darling? I'm sorry all that happened. You know, again, it shouldn't have happened. I'm right next to the router. It makes no sense. Mandy? Is that a Mandian? She who shall not be named brought me a beard brush the other week. Bloody brilliant. A beard brush. What's wrong with them? Yeah. If I grow a beard, I might get a brush for it. Actually, I use a comb, and I don't do it very often, but I've like most traditional. I'm a traditional man. I'm an old-fashioned man, right? So the combs that have got half slightly wider teeth, and then ones that have got really, really thin ones. And every now and then when I do my beard to straighten it up, right? It's, imagine, ladies, right? Imagine a face version of when your mum used to brush the knots out of your long hair when you were a kid. Very similar, but more painful, because the follicles are thicker and bigger. You know, as blokes, you know, we've got a face full of pubes. It's not like this, you know. Feel the wind in your hair. It's not like that. You know, these are thick bastards. So when you're pulling on it, when you're trying to, anyway, let's get to some. Not Mandy, sorry. It's all right, Michael. It's all right. Getting all your chicks mixed up, you know. I've heard you got a bit of a harem going on down there. Mandy is Sal Misra. Chelsea Star is Rosa's daughter, but uses Chelsea Star's account on YouTube. So it's Rosa with Italiano origins. British Bulldog and Scrumpin. Loved it. Yeah, it was great. It was absolutely brilliant. You know, and let me just point something out here for you, right? To put things into perspective, just a little bit. I can trace my family back at least 500 years in this country. Before that, fuck knows, right? Now, the bulldog was bred to rile the bull, right? Or to distract the bull. Now, it takes a strong kind of fucking dog to deal with a beast that's 30 times bigger, 20, 25, 30 times bigger than they are, which is 20 times, 30 times more powerful than they are. Now, the British Bulldog is an incredibly iconic dog. People have likened Churchill, who was a cunt, to the British Bulldog. And then you can get T-shirts where you've got a bulldog wearing a St. George's Cross or a Union Jack, combining all four countries together under that dog. British, not English, although the English Bulldog, look it up, right? But British Bulldog, not Scottish Bulldog, not English Bulldog, although that does exist, not Welsh Bulldog, not Irish Bulldog, British Bulldog. Going up against something way, 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 way more formidable. And that was its job. And that's what we're doing now. Such a struggle getting the kids off their phones. They shout down the stairs, "Mum, I text you." Yeah. Again, shit parenting. And I don't care who's listening, right? If you've not got control of your kids, and your kids, even if your kids are any of your offspring that are still living at your home, right, which is more common now than it's ever been because of the cost of living. Bear in mind, I left home at 16. Now, if you knew what it was like to live there, right, you would have understood why I got out when I was 16, right? There was a point in my life where I thought, I think that's, don't worry, I'm making a point here. There was a point in my life where I was thinking, I think 16 is a bit too young to leave home, right? But looking back, I wouldn't be the rounded guy I am now if I hadn't, because it's like, right, sink or swim time, you know. There's nothing else. You either sink or you swim. Learned a lot of life skills before I left home. So what I'm saying is there are a lot of sort of middle-aged ladies out there that still have their daughters and sons living with them, right? Now, a lot of you will have created a fucking monster because you failed to get on top of shit before it became a problem, like the phones. Now, my mum always said, and I totally agree with that, because that would be the case if I ended up having to take anyone in here, right, into this house. My house, my fucking rules. Until you've got your name on the mortgage or you've got your name on the rent book, I'm putting you up. I'm putting up with you. So I do recommend that to those who that applies to, that you start getting a bit more strict with the young'uns, because otherwise what's coming down the line is going to be way, way, way more impactful for them unless you tell them who the fucking boss is. They get to stop being told what they can and can't do once they've left home. Not whilst they're living at home. Whilst they're living at home, it's your fucking house. Put some minerals in them. Make life a bit tougher for them. They'll thank you for it further down the line. But most of you won't. And you'll pay the price for that. But if I had kids, obviously, which I don't, and there'd be plenty of people out there going, well, if you haven't got kids, you would never really know. Well, if you've listened to lots and lots of live streams of me going through certain aspects of my life, blah, 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 then you know that I have had parenting experience, some parenting experience that most people don't have. On top of the fact that just because I don't have kids of my own doesn't mean that I haven't got a valid opinion either, that comes from a place of common sense. So if I had children, I would make sure that we all sat at the dinner table together and ate together, and no phones at the table. And I would take the phones off them and give them back to them at certain times. That's it. I would be restrictive. But the reason why I would have that approach, and I know I would, is because I'm pretty sure I would still have a pretty good handle on just how addictive these things really, really are. More addictive than heroin and crack combined. But because there are no withdrawal symptoms visible, no one pays any attention. You don't notice it until you start to see weird shit behavior, like mums texting their daughter or son upstairs to say the dinner's ready. And then when they come down for the dinner, they all sit there and they're just swiping, all of them, no communication whatsoever. I can't fucking wait to see the end of these fucking things. Just have a laptop. You'll get a lot more done. Anyway. Such a struggle. Yeah, I know. It is. It's a challenge. It is a challenge. It's not going to be easy, especially if you've been continuing down the same sort of path with your kids and you've been consistent that way, then it's going to take a lot more to get out of that because you've been consistent, probably not in the healthiest of ways. Because you love your kids. You love them. You absolutely love them. And you'll do anything for them. You'll die for them. So you want to spoil them because you love them. I get that. But it's all about balance. You need to find balance in your home. If you've still got dependents, and if they're your kids and they're still living at home, regardless of what their age is, to some degree or another, they are dependents because they've not got enough life experience to handle tough times out in a tough world. They're relying on you to take the brunt of all of it. And that's not on. It's not good for you and it's not good for them. Yeah, I miss the old school ways as well. But I do think, Rosa, that we can go back to all of that. I think it's achievable. But as I've said plenty of times before, you know, the moment that we're in now to achieving that will take a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrificing, and a lot of stress, a lot of determination, a lot of strength. What doable? If I didn't think it was doable, I wouldn't talk about it. I really wouldn't. Now, let's just get off subject now and talk about some prepping related things, and then just get back into flow, right? Now, we've all got neighbours. Even David, right up in the Highlands there, beautiful, beautiful place where he lives, you know. I would feel that would be like waking up in a place like that would be like the feeling that I get from yoga every single day. I would never, ever take it for granted. But his neighbours just aren't attached to his house, I don't think. But even if they are, most of us, if not all of us, have got neighbours, right? And I have said that this event is something that we aren't going to be able to get through completely on our own. Not happening. So again, the whole lone wolf thing, that'll work for a little while whilst you're figuring out where your allies are and whether you can trust them. So initially it'll work. but that's the least efficient way of doing it. The most efficient way of doing it is getting to know the people that live on your street. Now, she's not a prepper. Absolutely not. There's not particularly good chemistry between me and her or her fella, you know. But we just say hello, just to be polite, because we're British. It's what we do. However, this side, Ting Tong Tina. Now, Kev, he is a nice bloke. He is. He's a nice guy. He really is. But one thing that annoys me about some people is when they try to put across that they're a lot more awake than they actually are, because the questions that you ask afterwards clarify that. So that irritates me more than people that aren't awake at all. And that he has lied, and I know he's lied. I don't like liars. But he could be, he boxes, so he could be an ally, right? But it's going to be a bit of a stretch trying to feed a whole fucking family. It's not my responsibility to feed his family. It's his responsibility to feed his family. And I've said to him just probably about 3 times over the last 2 years, get some extra food in, mate. And I've always been met with the same response. We've always got plenty. I've done my job. I warned him. I haven't said don't come knocking on my door if you've got no food, because that would indicate that I've got loads of food. So only tell your neighbours the absolute basics, if that, whilst trying to get to know them and finding out whether or not you can trust them or not. Now, he knows I'm growing food. He knows that I've planted some fruit trees, and I'm growing some food. Now, I think I've got a very, very cost-effective and efficient way of finding out maybe if he's. It's a process of elimination. There are different ways of trusting people for different reasons, right? I've got these trail cams, right? And they are very good. They see in the dark, it illuminates everything. If you've got a half decent sized garden and, you're just interested in wildlife and that, these are perfect because it takes snapshots and video footage as well with sound, right? But it's motion censored. So I'm going to be connecting 2 of these up in my garden, knowing full well it's very easy for him to get from his garden into my garden. There's the other one. I'm just charging up the batteries for this one. I'll be setting them up into positions where they cover every single square inch of the bottom part of the garden, which is in complete darkness. I could put security lights up, which would be a deterrent. But security lights break the balance of nightlife, night wildlife. It can startle foxes, it can startle rats, it can again they're usually LED lightings as well, which is not good for insects. It just messes with the red. You know, originally, pre all of this shit, when we were all sat here by candlelight, moths were and other insects were navigating via the light from the moon. Now they're confused as fuck. There's lights everywhere. So I have got a security light down there, but I don't use it for that reason. Now, some fruit did disappear off one of my fruit trees last year, and there were two. There were pears, so they were too big, really, for a squirrel to come along. Dun 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 dun. Whenever I see a squirrel moving, I always think of the Mission Impossible music, because I've seen how crazily clever they are at problem solving, you know. So it wouldn't have been a squirrel that took off with these pears. The fence panel's too long unless you are like what was it? What was that Mr. Man that had like 17 meters of fucking arm? Mr. Tickle, was it? No one can put their arms over the top and get those pears where they were. So I'm wondering if he's been in. I'm just curious. I don't think he actually has. There must be I do think there's some sort of rational explanation for it, right? My point is that setting up these trail cams in my garden, where most of my food is going to be growing, and towards the end of the year, where we don't know where food prices are going to be, we don't know if the shit's going to have properly hit the fan by then and people have looted all the supermarkets. We just don't know. We don't know, right? So desperate people can become more desperate. Now, even if I'd not prepared, I know me, I wouldn't sneak into his garden and steal his fruit. I wouldn't do that. I would ask him. I'd speak to him. I'd say, you know, just ask. I'd ask, speak, communication. We need to keep talking. So setting these up, I think if I find footage of him on either of these trail cams, then I will know that I can't fully trust my neighbour. You know, knock on my door. All right, Terry, have you got any food? Don't steal from me. Don't fucking steal from me. So I'll have the footage and I'll show him. I'll go, look at this, mate. I'll look at this wildlife camera. And I'll show him. And I'll watch him fucking squirm. Even though he's a boxer, it means fuck all to me. Nothing. I need to be around people I can trust. But after that, that might not even come about. That might not even end up being a thing. That confrontation, you know? But even if it does turn out to be a scenario later this year or next year, maybe, probably later this year, then I will then put him into a position where he knows he's been caught out. He is wary of me. He doesn't know too much about me. There are little things that have made him suspicious about me, not in a bad way, but not in a good way, right? But that interaction, that confrontation of you fucking stole from me, could potentially turn him into an even stronger ally. Again, look at all of these variables, and this is just with your neighbours, right? These cunts thought they could pull off psyop after psyop after psyop, right? On countries, you know, the global population in lockstep. And I was saying 4 or 5 years ago, that there are just far too many variables to take into account for them to pull this off. Far too many. But we just need fewer divvy bastards out there that are naive and looking for a hero. Once you've stopped looking for a hero, like, is it Reclaim? Whatever that fucking party is, or it's not even a party. As long as you stop looking towards Reform and Reclaim and fucking Tommy Robinson and them, him and her and there and there, looking for someone else to come and fucking save you, you're always going to be pathetic. Always. Always. Doomed to fucking fail because you're not strong enough. You've got to learn to stand in your own power. Again, that's what sovereignty is. That's what it is. It's not just a word. We all need to be complete and total individuals, completely and totally self-sufficient as far as our mentality and our spirituality is concerned. So mindset. We've got to be completely self-resilient and reliant on ourselves, not looking for a hero, not looking for some politician that's saying all the right fucking words again. Once you've achieved that, you'll feel so empowered. Now, if we can get loads and loads and loads more people to be like that, and I'm trying to be as rude as I possibly can in the comment section of so many videos, just to get people's fucking attention with the truth, verifiable truth. So everyone being a complete and total self-reliant individual, whilst at exactly the same time being part of lots and lots of people around us that have the same mindset. So you are a complete and total individual whilst working as a collective at the same time, but perfectly, organically. And that's going to take some work. He got neighbours but not connected and fair distance, and got an acre of land wrapped around, so also comfortable distance. Beautiful, perfect, mate, idyllic. Still weighed up and spoken to most of the village. Very high trust community. That's a good thing, mate, but it's not a community that's under immense stress yet, and people start to behave differently then. Alana, people will turn nasty on those that have food if there is food shortage. It is very wise not to tell others if you have a stockpile. Absolutely spot on. You know, I can't push discretion enough. Again, he doesn't know what I've got. You know, I would rather sacrifice a few pears and a few apples to know that my neighbour is a thief, knowing I've got plenty of other food and some foraging skills to know that I can get by without those few apples and those few pears. But I will have learned a valuable lesson, and I will have gotten to know a big, massive aspect of my neighbour. You know, you don't steal from your neighbours. You don't steal from your friends, your family. You don't steal from anyone. I think corporations are a different animal. I think I would waive that moral towards corporations. Get everything you fucking can, because it's corporations that are becoming together in this technocracy that's where it's being ruled over by it's like, well, it's satanic, but it's got a corporate fascia. I hope that makes sense. Give thanks every day to be able to live in such a beautiful place and had years of shite housing and shite neighbours, so know how lucky we are to live in peace and surrounded by beauty. I know you appreciate it, David. We both lived in the same town. We both lived in Radford, you know. So we know what Radford's like. Again, I still can't get my head around that I'm talking to a Radford lad when you consider the size of the channel and its reach and its niche, you know. Same as Annie. What's the chances of bumping into Annie, who'd been subscribed for ages, or David Gel, you know, complete and total coincidence. And the only reason he knew that I was Rose Hippie Guy is because he spotted the girls from the walk and talks. The channel's tiny in comparison to most channels. So I do think that you know, roads converge for a reason. Anyway, I'm quite sentimental cunt sometimes. My granddad and the man in the mirror are my heroes. Oh, that's beautiful, Jordan. That's so beautiful. I love that, man. I have become a sentimental fucker, you know, and it's a reminder that you've still got a heart, you know. Yeah, lovely. Unfortunately, T, most people prefer a palatable lie over the truth. You are spot on there, David. It's the easiest route, the easiest path, the easiest option, right? But when you place millions or tens of millions of people with a mindset like that, and then put them into the situation that they're quite likely to face this year, you know, not all of them are going to roll over. I don't, you know, if I had a pound for every time I've said it has to get way worse, way fucking worse before it ever gets better, you know, I'd be minted. I'd have a dog's bollocks crossbow like our Dave, you know. Which I am going to get. I'm determined now. My next door neighbour, I told to help himself to tomatoes and beans last year. He is a 94. You're looking out for the elderly. I don't think there's anything more fucking noble than doing that. And I have said the build up to each winter, keep an eye on the elderly in your neighbourhood, especially when they took that £300. That 300 people think £300. I could spend that on a night out. That £300 to people that were on a state pension, which isn't much. You know, they're eating shit food. pensioners respectable from a generation where you never stole that are actually out there stealing food now. So again, and then loads of them were wiped out with midazolam and all of that shit, end of life meds, when they were okay, they were fine, they were healing, they wanted to come home. No, we need to kill them. So I have said, look out for your elderly neighbours, especially over winter, but not even just winter, you know, just nip in and say hello now and then. You know, I know some of them can talk. Hey, look, a lot of them go brrr, solid, right? And you're thinking, fuck me, I feel well burnt out. But the reason that she or he's gone brrr in conversation with you, right, is because you're probably the only person that they've had a proper conversation with in months, maybe longer. So I literally tip my hat to you, Jordan, for doing that. Much love, brother. Do you feel crossing the channel have been allowed to come due to an agenda? Yes, Alana. Yeah, it's called. It's gone, and I've never, ever forgotten it. It's an agenda that's been around since the early part of the last century. And then when the United Nations was formed, that was part of the build-up to what's happening now. The Kalergi plan. That's a word that YouTube doesn't like. So I'm waiting to start going. And I can't hear you. I can't see you. Agenda 2030. Yeah. Which has had God knows how many decades in the making. And yeah, this is all part of the plan. So they bring in third worlders into a first world country, and it destabilizes it. Multiculturalism does not work. It doesn't work. You can't just take this very, very unique, original culture and then get this very unique individual culture and then smash them together like that. It doesn't fucking work. You know, tell me somewhere where that's worked. Pray tell. All ears. So it hasn't worked. And they knew it wouldn't work. And then you throw religion into the pot as well, which is all religions are man-made. They're made for division. So, but you can still be a spiritual woman. You can still be a spiritual man. You don't need to be fucking religious. You don't need to be part of a cult. But bringing about religion was genius, really. Separated people, you know, continents, and even not even continents. You get a Hindu, a Sikh, a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist, an atheist, and an agnostic all in one room. No one's ever going to fucking agree on anything. And they know that. Religion needs to be abolished. I'd fuck it off tomorrow. And if that offends anyone that's listening to me now, go fuck yourself. Move along to another live stream. Or do a bit of research. Or do some proper, deep, critical thinking about religion. You'll thank me later. But yeah, Alana, I don't know if I answered that question or not. I do apologise, darling. I go off on one. Spreading the love, Jordan. Yeah, they would. They would appreciate. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were, Michael. Least I could do. Yeah, go. That's so lovely. This is again, Jordan. This is how I've right. You know, please go back to my first videos. You know, I've always said that this is what we need to come back to. Community. Everyone looking out for each other. Look, I don't know a single community where she's never going to get on with her. He's never going to get on with him. But we find a way. It's like, just ignore him, you know, trying to get perfect chemistry. When the more people you add to a group to make it a society, to make it a community, the more complex it becomes on a chemical level, chemistry, you know. But if you've got elders in place, then, and elders that have been chosen because loads of people have thought that they've got enough wisdom and common sense to be in that position, they can deal with these problems without a single punch being thrown or anything. We can go back to absolute basics, back to communities, back to talking, back to getting away from texting, back to, right, hold that thought, you know, or hold on, let me just send this text, or hold on, let me just do this. Hold on, I'm just listening to this bit. You know, you think about how many hours, how many minutes, seconds, hours, days, weeks, months you've wasted because of the slavery connection to modern tech. You know, we've got to get back to basics. We really do. Less complicated. Everyone knew everyone. Yeah, it was still tribal, but that's not a bad thing. You know, two tribes don't always go to war. A one world government, that is exactly what they have planned. Yeah. And the best way to bring people to their knees is take away their food and make them completely and totally reliant on the government that wants to take control of them. Which is why we need to create as big a buffer zone as we possibly can and then lead by example, but without wanting to lead. Whilst planting seeds here, there, and absolutely fucking everywhere. Just a comment here, a conversation there, a hint here. You know, they all add up. If everyone's doing it, it will advance the waking up process of those who can be woken up. Just saying. I started to worry about another elderly guy down the road, chatted every day, found out he went into hospital now and in a care home. Oh, mate, it's a shame. Look, if these people, if these lovely senior citizens end up in a really good care home where the staff that are employed there are stringently fucking analysed to make sure that they are absolutely perfect for the job. But I'm sorry to say, mate, those sort of care homes are in a very, very tiny minority. Care homes are a business. It's all about profit. They are here to demoralize the population and cause economic collapse for starters. Absolutely. You didn't need to. Oh, you're a perfectionist, Lana. You are. I understood that there was an H missing. We all did. Well, bless you anyway. And what you've put there is absolutely spot on. It's to demoralize. It's to demoralize us. Now, what would be their biggest threat? Let's just say in England, right? What would be their biggest threat, right? It would be men like me, white, British, patriotic, and still relatively fit. And any men, no offense to anyone that's older than me, any men that are younger than me that fit the white Caucasian British profile. So what they've cleverly done is they've gotten rid of every man that fits that profile out of every single advertisement that you see on TV. Every single one. The only representation of a white English man that you will see on adverts is someone that's severely overweight, someone that's, no offense, but I'm just saying this is just, no, I'll leave that. And no, fuck it. They put ginger people in. I've not got anything against ginger people. Some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life were ginger. Or white people in the background, just in the background of the mixed race couple, of which is not that common. Or every advert that needs a male is a black man. It's advert after advert after advert trying to push masculinity out of the minds of the white indigenous people of Great Britain. But it doesn't matter how many fucking adverts they put out there. I'm here. We're still here. We're still fucking here and we're ready to go, you know? But there are a lot of people out there that are being subliminally manipulated and having their thoughts warped a little bit, you know, into just all of a sudden not noticing any white masculine role models anymore, to the point where they become a little bit lost because they've not got any role models, and they also then start to become more and more effeminate. And it's not good. It's not good. Men are meant to be masculine, protectors of their women and their country. Notice how I didn't say children, right? It's the woman's job to protect those kids. It's the man's job to protect that woman. It's the man's job to put 10 times more effort into protecting that woman, because she's protecting your kids. So they've done away with the white man of any description worth mentioning on all adverts now, pretty much. And again, you know, it's pretty obvious why they're doing it. But all it does is that just makes me more and more determined. We should be represented at least 80% on adverts, because white men make up at least 80% of this country, of Great Britain. And it's the BBC's pledge, one of their pledges, to ensure that proportionate representation is in place. Now, gender dysphoria is 1 in 4 million people, 0.004%. Okay? So why is gender dysphoria all over our schools now when it never used to be? Oh, right, let me just catch up. The powerful not being powerful. A lot of elders have prepping knowledge. Yes, they do. Yeah. Yeah. I can fix that for you. You know, if when I've had a stain in something, I took it to my mother-in-law, you know, and gone, can you do anything with this? I reckon I can sort that out for you. After I've tried every fucking thing, you know, vanish, make that vanish out of your cupboard and in the bin, right? There's so many different stain removers, but they know the old ways. That, you know, if we think we were part of an organic childhood, imagine what their childhood was like, you know, and their parents. But they used to pass knowledge down, and they used to teach the kids at an early age home economics. And at schools there was home economics. But even though I think we were always kids at schools for the last fucking hell 100 years or so, have just been changing slightly with the times, changing the curriculum slightly with the times as things modernized and changed, right? But the purpose was always the same. The goal was always the same: to create drones, worker drones, to make the rich richer. That was the only purpose. That's why they, you know, a very, very well-known family got involved in the education system, fucked it all up. But let me tell you this, that mainstream education programming, for some bizarre reason, didn't work on all of us. And the only way you're going to know who else you're looking at out there is like you. It's by talking to them. Dialogue. Again, I've never asked anyone to like any of my videos. I never would. I've never asked anyone to subscribe, because if people subscribe, it's been organic. It's not because I've suggested subscribing. It's because they've subscribed because they like what they hear, they like what they see, they like what they're learning, getting to know, realizing they're not alone. You know, it has to be organic. Everything has to be organic. It's the only way this is all going to work. Let me go up a little bit. I do apologize. I've fallen behind again. And this is the second attempt, you know. You couldn't make this shit up. Yeah, so it's touch screen, but it's not very responsive. What's that? Is that dinosaur shit? It's not new. Where are we? One world government. Okay. I started to worry about another round. Yeah. Okay. I don't like missing. And again, I got behind on those food shop haul videos. I wasn't expecting them to gain that much traction. So, and I like to. I've always said I'll always respond one way or another to your comments, because I've always been that way and I've always said I'll do that. But I do think if it keeps growing, if the channel keeps growing at the rate that it is doing, I'm not going to be able to respond to everyone. And I don't want just to respond to him and her because they've been with me from the start and then leave them out, because it just wouldn't be fair. But you'll get a heart at the absolute minimum, just acknowledgement and a thank you for commenting and potentially opening dialogue up in the chat. Because like I said, I'm not interested in likes. I'm not interested in your subscribing. If you subscribe or you like, you do it off your own back. But I've always promoted dialogue, always in the chat. That's something I've always pushed, because I'm almost like I can be almost like a third person sometimes. And I watch these chats unfold between different people that have never met each other before, exchanging tips and stuff, not just tips, just conversing, people that have never met. So one thing I will always push is dialogue. But as this channel gets bigger, it's going to get more and more difficult for me to give an individual, unique to your comment response, or just do less videos so I can catch up, But then I get a lot of emails as well, and I get a lot of stuff sent me. It all adds up on top of the fact that for most like more serious preppers, I'm not saying that. I think all preppers are serious. I don't know how to put it. Maybe if there's a sliding scale of how much effort, I don't know. But this is a very, very busy time of the year for me, trying to get stuff sorted out. Plus, we've got all of this batshit bonkers shit going on as well. And some crazy, weird shit creeping up on us to create the ultimate false flag. But then maybe they won't need that if they still continue with an orchestrated closure of the Strait of Hormuz, in order to create food shortages. Again, going back to an earlier comment, you control the food, you control the people. So yeah. Where are we? The powerful not being powerful. I like that. I like that. That's worthy of a fucking t-shirt. If ever I saw one, we could have made millions, thousands, hundreds of t-shirts from things that people have said in the comments. Thousands, maybe even millions, maybe, not millions, but thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands, right? But there would have just been whatever. You need things that are simple yet profound on a t-shirt. I did try and find my my t-shirt that says the people should never be afraid of their government. Their government should always be afraid of their people. And I can't find it. I'll wear it for the next one when I'm wired up and there's no fucking glitches. A lot of elders of prepping knowledge. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I missed that one. Right. Karma visits the good and the evil. I like that, Michael. That's another potential t-shirt, China. It is. I love it. I do believe in karma. That's why I try not to. There's something called, I don't know if there's any truth in it or not. I'm just suspicious of it. But it's called hexing. So if you hex someone, that can come back on you. So when I'm walking down the street and I'm thinking, I wish you'd go for your 10th booster, because you are an absolute waste of fucking. There will have been loads of other information that's gone in my head before I thought that. I don't just walk around thinking that of people, you know. And then I look at some of these world leaders, these puppets, and I have dark thoughts of getting them on their own, you know. So is thinking that dark as bad as doing it because it's still in there? And if it's as bad as doing it, then could karma come back? Anyway, too woo-woo. England waking up. I do believe that. I do recognise your username. We've communicated in the comments section a little bit, and yeah, thank you, and welcome to our little tribe. You know, a new. I don't like the word subscriber. I don't like that fucking word. One of my little neighbours prep. I think most of us have got that problem, mate. I want to do a 3-month food prep for my mum and 3 of my brothers and my older brother and him and his missus. Fuck me, Jordan. Whoa, fucking hell. That's quite an undertaking, mate. That's a lot of food. A lot of food. If you haven't already, which I'm sure you have, right? I'm hoping that you reading that back has added some serious gravity to that. But yeah, all I can suggest is that maybe just prioritize those people. You know, right, this one definitely, you know. It's such a shame that they're all so out of touch that they're not doing this for themselves. But then you're also put in a position where you're thinking, but I don't want them to know that I've got loads and loads of food. I want them to have their own food. But again, Jordan, when they run out of that 3 months worth of food, what then? There are people out there that I've figured out are quite strong-willed, right? But haven't prepared anywhere near enough. And I probably won't help them out, because I think that the more shit you tolerate, the more situations that you're put in and become desperate. But that's the part of the human where it triggers something, a survival mechanism, a culmination of knowledge and tips and tricks that you've picked up and things that people have said, blah, 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 all coming together, and you becoming the solution-based being that you were meant to be. But a lot of that can only come from hardship. So a lot of these people are going to need to learn the fucking hard way. Like I said, got to get worse before it gets better. This all reverts back to that very, very, very famous saying that is so profoundly true. And it's gone around and around and a fucking round again. Good men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times. Bad times create good men. Good men create good times. Good times create weak men. It goes on and on and on. The more shit you take in your life and come through the other side of it, the stronger you are, the more malleable you are, the more tempered you are. And mention the soulless ones. Did you know that they got a freckle for every soul they steal? I didn't know that. I don't know if that's true, but I'm so glad that I read it because it's funny as fuck. I think a famine and cyber attack are on my predictability bingo card. Again, isn't that bizarre that we've got exactly the same bingo card, Lana? What are the odds of that? Completely and totally agree. So I think when you start to look at and look into the most highly probability of something that you could do with preparing for, right? Again, if you're prepared for everything, it's like, right, I've got chainmail diving gear here in case I get attacked by a shark. You're not going to invest in that fucking shit. You know? So it's about preparing for things that are the most likely. And there are lots and lots of signals and lots of common sense that is leading to those two coming into effect. So prepare for both of them. You're already doing it with food. The downside to a cyber attack is it depends on how widespread it is. If it reaches our water stations, you turn the tap on, that water's not just come from like condom fucking station inside your tap. It's powered. So when or if that gets tapped up, knackered, I mean, Israel and Iran, just briefly, then I'll get back on subject. Israel and Iran eyeing up each other's desalination plants because that will cause a catastrophic problem for the people of both of those countries. More Israel. So I think that's why it's not really been done very much. It's like Iran's gone, you do that, and we'll fucking destroy your desalination, which will mean the end of Israel. So we're preparing food-wise. We do need to advance a little bit more on our foraging knowledge because that's food for free and it could save your life, Learning a little bit of self-defense or at least getting a bit fitter, stretching yourself up a little bit. Yoga's good. You've got your muscles, then you've got a supportive muscle around your muscles. Yoga is designed to stretch that supportive muscle around your muscle, which none of us do. How many of you do stretches in the morning? I had something called compartment syndrome when I was in my mid-20s. And that's where anyway, long story, it's fixed now. Yeah, energy lockdowns are, I can't see how they can, right. So the word lockdown, as far as energy is concerned, is, I think, loosely termed, right? Because it's not going to be like a COVID-19 lockdown, right? Don't leave your house. Some people were put in quarantine. In quarantine, they allowed themselves to be imprisoned. What the fuck? Where were the fucking men? Anyway, They allowed themselves to be imprisoned, right? And then loads of other men, you know, the women are out of this for now, right? You're our support. Where were all the men that thought, I'm not being stuck in my fucking house. I want to go out. I want to hit the hills. I want to go on a hike. I want to go fishing. I want to do this. I want to do that. And there were men out there that did that. I'm sure I'm talking to some, because you are. So that was an extreme form of lockdown that I did not adhere to. So the energy lockdowns would be because you can't afford any fuel for your car to get any further than 15 minutes from where you live, or 20 minutes. And then we're looking at rolling blackouts as a part of that energy lockdown, because then you won't be able to catch a tram or light your home or anything like that. Or, oh my God, the list goes on and on and on and on and on of the potential side effects of a lack of diesel, a lack of oil, and the fact that we've built a dreadful energy system and destroyed efficient ones, replacing them with shit. In England, replacing them with solar panels when we don't get any sun, wind turbines that need diesel to get them going, but only last 10 years. Yet they're tearing down power stations that could continue to work. A bit of modernisation here and there in some of them, but could have continued to work perfectly. And then there are modular nuclear plants that you can have outside of every town and city, but they take 5-10 years, about 10 years really, to get it right and get it all plumbed in. But they've got no plans of that. They want to starve you of absolutely fucking everything, including your soul. I think because, let me go up a little bit. Hold on. It's a cull. Yeah, well, they've done one cull, and we don't really know the extent of that cull because we don't know what the after effects and the side effects of getting a bad batch of that is going to do to him further down the line. So we can't really, it's too early still to figure out the long-term ramifications of people that got jabbed, but got jabbed with the bad stuff. Not, some of you guys got jabbed, and you can go through every single one of my videos, go back as far as you fucking want, and I've never slated anyone for getting jabbed. I do turn around every now and then and talk about someone and then an interaction I've had, and I've just thought, oh, fucking hell, are you on your 10th booster? You're still here. You're a chink in the armor of humanity. You're a pain in the arse. That's how I'm feeling sometimes now. But I know that people were in tricky positions, and if only you just waited. Anyway, it is what it is. It was what it was. Energy lockdowns are definitely incoming, and I'm looking forward to that because that's one thing I'm very, very prepared for. Very. As for EMPs, I do think that I do think it's possible to create an EMP. I'm becoming less and less a believer that nukes exist. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, really, that I was showing you what anti-nuke pills to buy from eBay were, and they're probably sat in your cupboard out of date now, and you'll probably never need them. I would bet. However, an EMP is a completely different weapon. An electromagnetic pulse in a missile detonated in high atmosphere, if it's got enough yield. But again, how can you put that much yield into a missile that's going to wipe out the power grid of a state of America, for example, or the Midlands? Yeah, anyway, unless they've found out a way of using a missile, a very advanced missile with an EMP primer, and then using the ether to shut down all electronics, because it's all around you. It's everywhere. Put your hand out like that, close it. The amount of electricity that's in your hand could power your home for a year. It's just that we don't have the means to harness it. So that's it. Yeah, so that's me almost discounting EMPs as well, unless they're that advanced that they have managed to find a missile that can explode quite high up in the atmosphere, or the firmament, or whatever church you're from, and then utilize the ether to do the damage, knowing full well that that was one of the 5 elements. It was the 5th element that they don't talk about in schools anymore. Anyway, signs and symbols rule this world. New world, no laws. Read the signs. Yeah, they're everywhere, especially 33. Okay, now it's just everywhere. But then that's also a sign, you know, the 33 vertebrae. Just saying. Oh, see, I didn't see that comment there, Lana. I'm doubting EMPs because they need the grid for their digital ID surveillance system. Yeah, good point. But maybe they can miraculously fix everything, but to make sure it doesn't happen, no, that would put them off. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in the Lana camp on that. I don't think it fits in with their plans and their agenda, an EMP. Scary thought, Lana. Last resort for desperados, cannibalism. Not for me. I mean, I've eaten a few women out. Oh no, I'm so sorry. It's quick wit. I don't think about what I'm saying. It just comes out, and I do apologize for being so sordid. I'm not normally like that, you know. It's fucking it's just British humor, you know. So I do apologize, ladies, for that. I'm not into cannibalism either. But I do like eating out. Just a little bit of a spillage there. Oh, have you had one as well? Oh, come on, ladies. Calm down. Right, where was I? Start digging, Terry. But you make a good point. A good point there, Rosa. I don't think it would come to cannibalism, but again, I know it's a dark subject, but it wasn't that long ago that there was an incredibly bad potato famine in Ireland, and some families were fattening up kids for meat. So the level of desperation can lead to unbelievable acts in order to survive. We've got a survivalist in every single one of us. Not everyone. Some people are like, oh no, and that's it. They just die, not having a clue about anything or anyone. And in 1972, the year that I was born, and there was a film made called it'll come to me in a minute, and it was an Argentinian football team that crashed in the Alps in 1972. On a very, very, very big plane. And I think Alive, it was called Alive. If you ever get to watch that film, the survivors of that film said it was incredibly realistic to what actually happened. So when you've got survivors of an event turning around and saying, fucking hell, that is almost exactly how it went, because they had input into the making of the film. So the year I was born, and they started, and a lot of these people are still alive today. So you've got their side of it as well. You don't need to just listen to me. And they fed on people that didn't make it. They thought that they were going to be rescued within a day, couple of days. So they went through all the sweets, all the candy, all the fags, all the alcohol, any spare food that was knocking about, went through it all, to the point where this white plane that had crashed into a snow-capped crevasse, if you like, it was almost impossible to spot. It's a bit different now, because I mean, even people like us, we can get an app on our phone. I haven't got it, but I know a few people that have. We can get an app on your phone that tells you what aircraft's going around wherever. Everything's kind of. But I think it might have been a bit different back then, or the part of the plane that would have given off some sort of beacon or whatever would have pinged, and I don't know, but that didn't happen. So the film's called Alive, and it's from 1972. The film wasn't made in 1972. It was just born. It was when the year I was born, so I remember watching it. It felt significant. And the resilience and the resourcefulness and the mental health management of that film. Please watch it if you get the chance. It's worth buying on DVD. It's not based on a story. It's not fiction. It's not fiction. So it could inspire you on how to kind of think in situations that feel at the time completely and utterly hopeless. But they resorted to cannibalism. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of other examples. You just need to look online of desperation. Hence getting fit and maybe learning to fight. I will put a video out, but just with the basics, just basics, things that you're most likely to encounter. There's no point in going through a big repertoire, A, because it'll be too much to remember, and B, I haven't got one. I just know, what I've trained. Which isn't, I'm no Bruce fucking Lee, but some of these skills could help. It could buy you seconds. It could save your life. But yeah, cannibalism. Yeah, I hope that was a very nice, sweet, short little answer about cannibalism there, Rosa. That took 20 minutes. Yeah, cyber polygon. Yeah, absolutely spot on. It's not cannibalism if my cat eats people. It's not. It's not. And it also won't be cannibalism when you are so desperate for food and you've learned no foraging skills and you don't know how else to gain calories to survive, and then start looking at your cat. Which has happened, you know. Just saying. Yeah, 15 minutes it is. I'm glad you know about these things, Emma, because whenever we see, because we usually get like the same group, the same people, the same members, you know, the same, you know, community sort of coming into the live streams on a regular basis. So whenever we see someone new, it's like, oh, you know, it's nice, you know, it's nice. And it's nice that you're aware of 15-minute cities, and you'll get to know from comments from different people and maybe some of the stuff that I talk about as well. You might get to learn a few more bits and bobs. We might get to learn a few more bits and bobs from you. That's what makes us strong. The being able to be a complete and total individual, self-sufficient individual, whilst being part of a community. And this is a community. So, and again, you can build your community back up. You can get out there. I've been out there. I've been out there. I know that I've gone over this before. I'm not going to go over it again, but I've literally walked the walk and walked the talk and got out into my community and knocked on doors of people that I've never met before in my life. Just planting seeds. You wouldn't believe how powerful that is. As long as you make it sound completely and totally believable and plausible, which is not difficult to do because it is believable and plausible and possible. Now, come on. Fear. I love it. If God is with you, why worry about Babylon? Well, I'm not. I don't have fear. I don't have any fear. Fear is non-existent in me at all. I have days where I feel concerned. I have days where I feel a bit nervous. Days where I feel maybe a little bit anxious. Days where I feel a little bit low. But I never feel fear. Not really. It gets in the way. And I think the vast majority of the people listening to me now don't feel fear either, because it just gets in the way. It's irrational. But just like I think we might have had in a previous conversation in the last live stream, I am not a religious man. I assume that you are. You do you, I'll do me, but please just conduct yourself better in this live stream than you did in the last one. That's all I'm asking. Yeah, we can get along. We don't need to make our differences an issue. Oh, it's just easier to do that. Where are we? Oh, I've missed you. If you're still listening, Lorna, as you're settling down, I missed you. I do apologise. I've just jumped straight to the bottom, and I might have missed loads of comments out. I do apologise, but I'm going to carry on from here. I normally wouldn't do that. I'd go back and answer. Sweet dreams, Lorna. Sweet dreams, and good night to little wee Floyd. Watch you live at the cinema. Watched it live at the cinema when it came out. Amazing film, mate. You know, like I said, to get the survivors of that to turn around and say that was incredibly realistic. You know, to the point where I think they might have got a little bit of assistance from the survivors to make sure that it was as real as possible. So again, humans are just incredibly resilient, unbelievable. We're the most adaptable species in this world as far as we know. Nothing can adapt like us. And I don't think it's got anything to do with brain size. You don't see, I was going to say, you don't see a blue whale building a skyscraper, but then why would a blue whale want to build a skyscraper? They can save all of that wisdom and knowledge. Oh, I don't know where I'm going with that. Can you express your thoughts with us without endlessly quoting scripture? That is a good thing to say. Nice one, Michael. Very strategic and just strategic. It was good. You know, it's respectful and it's considerate and it's good. It's good. Is cannibalism if you plant veg on top? Yeah, it's bizarre that you said that, because I had a conversation with someone earlier on today that was saying that there's loads and loads of wild garlic growing in a certain area, and some of that wild garlic has spread into a graveyard, but they won't pick the wild garlic from that graveyard because of the thought of some of the nutrition that plant has taken up is human, even though chances of that being a reality is slim to zero. You know, it's an interesting question, that is, Jordan, because it's still nutrition. It's still food for the plants. Again, it's earlier on I was saying that some what are they called? Funeral homes were saying, look, you know, we've burnt these are your ashes. There you go. You know, when it's just stuff that they've just poured in there out of their multi-fuel stove. That's it. They've actually used chemicals to liquefy the body and then spread them all over crops, like their existence never ever mattered or was ever there to begin with. They used it in slurry. So what's the difference between that and your comment. You know, I would like the idea of plants using nutrition from my body to create food for more people. And I do think that there are some cultures out there that do that. They take their loved ones up into the mountains, and all of the all manner of different animals come and feast on the body. They see that as you, and this is the truth, please feel free to look into it. They see that as you living on, giving life in death. So I do think our Western views and opinions on things are very closed, you know, almost taboo subjects, whereas that's not the case in a lot of other countries. They celebrate death. They'll even carry the dead person through the streets on a chair, you know, like, hey, and they're all celebrating, and she's just sat there dead. There's loads of examples. Anyway, again, I don't give a straight answer, do I? Liquid funeral apparently as used as fertilizer. Yeah, I didn't read that, Jordan, but I reeled it off, so we're on the same page. It's absolutely disgusting. If they turned round to you and said, right, look, it would work out at a fraction of the cost, and bear in mind, all of these shortages are going to make the term a fraction of the cost sound more and more attractive and more appealing to more and more people as time goes by. Frank, what? We haven't got the money to bury your dad. But it says here, what does it say? It says here that we can liquefy him to give life to trees and plants in the wilderness. He'd have loved that. He was an outdoorsman. He loved fishing, didn't he? Yeah. What do you think? Well, we're broke. We're broke. Go on then. And that's it. That man or that woman with 80, 90, 100 years of life experience, and all those experiences, all those moments of dancing under the moonlight and swimming in lakes at night time, and going on holiday and having, like, being the light and soul of the family and all of that, the fucking beating heart of the family at one point, reduced to slime on a fucking field because no one can afford a proper funeral for him anymore, or even trust whether they're even getting one. Let's have a fag. Oh dear, I'm smoking my own. I think that's probably why I'm smoking less. I don't feel the urge as much, you know. If anyone wants any seeds, any tobacco seeds, and you're serious about growing them, I'll send you some for free. I'll pay for the postage. But just don't let me down, you know. Grow them. But I'll send you some seeds for free, and they are viable. They are working. I don't lie, and Jordan received a shitload of the seeds that I'm growing. So 2 separate sources there of how viable they are. I haven't got an unlimited amount, but you know, first come, first served. I'll cover the postage.
Can you express your thoughts with us without endlessly? Oh yeah. I think I need to go down. Living right on the lock and it being a sea lock, plentiful supply of seaweed, 50 miles of it. A lot of folk utilising it for the garden. It is fantastic stuff, because what a lot of people don't realise is that you can take like your Saxa salt, for example, right? Get a big tub of that, like 4 tons for 19 pence from Asda, and then go and pour that in your garden and watch your fucking plants die and the weeds, right? However, plants, just like us, we need minerals to survive and flourish. And seaweed is a perfect medium because it's taken on all of, you don't get more of a fucking hell. You don't get more of, generally speaking, more of a mineral rich environment than our oceans. So seaweed is a concentration of all of the right minerals, plus the matter of the seaweed also goes into the biological degradation and final result of perfect compost and perfect fertilizer. As long as you don't use it all the time because of the salt content, but very mineral rich, you know, incredible stuff. As you know, I make my own supplements, and one of the supplements that I take daily is kelp. So if you're not aware of the health benefits of kelp, please feel free to do some digging. Write it down on a little post-it note or something like that, and then do some digging, because it's incredibly good for you, and it also helps with removing the body of some heavy metals. And there are some parasites that aren't keen on it either. And you've got that right on your doorstep, David. I might take you up on your offer sometime and come in and have a visit, you know, so I can appreciate what you see. I won't overstay my welcome. I'm not like that. We're only talking, 6 months, something like that. I remember telling my family years ago that if I die, I want a tree planted over me instead of a headstone. Well, but I'll probably be incinerated. We don't know if we're going to end up being incinerated or not. That was my point. We just don't know. This green bullshit bollocks that they're just pushing around all the time. The amount of energy required to incinerate a human, because the most difficult organ to incinerate, or one of the most difficult parts of the body to incinerate, is the heart. So the amount of heat and energy required to turn you into some sort of scatterable dust is immense, and they want to cut down on that. So chances are you'll end up being slurry, or if we get to the other side of this hill, you'll be respectful respectfully buried by your loved ones in a place that is familiar to everybody. You know? We just don't know. It's all conjecture at the moment, but it's still all based on patterns that have been noticed and putting them together, and little news stories here and news stories there that do sort of come together and collate into potential facts. Anyway, best to soak it with fresh water, reduce salt content. Great idea. Yeah, you could use more of it then. Bloody expensive seedweed fertilizer, more than most types. I'll tell you something that is another great fertilizer, but if you don't live near the sea, if you've got a pond and you end up with something called blanket weed, right, which is a big problem for a lot of pond owners. I've got 2 ponds, and that is incredible fertilizer. It's fantastic. You just have to keep getting it out. I'll just put my hand in there like that, let it all collect up, and then as I pull out, I stretch it. I know what I need to say. Let me just go and get a top up. I'm being like a fucking 4-year-old. Oh. This is a price to pay for doing long live streams that most people don't do. Is that I'm going to need to take a toilet break now and then, so I'll be right back. It's just a piss, if you're listening. So although we do deviate away from prepping subjects from time to time, well, quite a lot actually, we do deviate. because I think we need to find balance and have a little bit of a laugh and, you know, just some bants from time to time. But from a prepping point of view, as David said, seaweed is fantastic, but so is blanket weed. But bear with me, because if you're a grower, if you are trying to utilize your back garden or your messy front garden, then you need to be aware that you're not going to be able to, it could be possible that you're not going to be able to obtain manure or compost or anything like that from a garden centre, because it's not been everything's crumbled, you know, the logistics of it all because of oil and diesel, and then the fertilizer elements of it and all that. So seaweed, I have heard of that, and I have heard that it is incredibly good stuff if you can try and leach some of the salt out of the salt water element of it. Blanket weed that you find in most ponds, it's a bastard, you know. And then even when you've got it out, I'm leading somewhere important with this, important and a bit gross. So when you're getting it out and you know that you've got a population of smooth newts that live in there, and the pond fleas that live in there that are food for other animals that you know, they all predate on each other. It's a perfect ecosystem going on in that pond, and it's also a fantastic backup reserve of water that I can make drinkable in a pinch, right? So we need to make sure that we can provide food for our plants and our fruit to make it as fruitful as possible, right? What is the main ingredient in fertilizer? Right, so nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium found in human urine? That's a big fat yes. You would be seriously amazed at how powerful your piss is. I mean, this is old news. This isn't new news. Is it urea? A certain element of fertilizer that they're struggling to get through in quantities enough to aid farmers in the West through the Strait of Hormuz, right? We don't need that fucking fertilizer. We just need piss. That's it. Get some topsoil, create a decent permaculture, save your piss up. Don't waste your piss. But don't overdo it either, because you can make the soil too enriched. You got to try and find a balance. And you'll do that with practice. But all I'm saying is, if you end up with just a composter or several composters, they are a fantastic source of food for your upcoming fruit and veg, right? As long as they've been able to be left alone to do their thing over time. You can't just build a fucking composter and then a month later try and take from the bottom of it. They need to establish themselves. But you can definitely speed that metabolism of degradation to turn it into good quality fertilizer, assisting the worms, not killing the worms, and various other insects and creatures that devour your kitchen waste and turn it into good quality fertilizer. You can literally speed that process up in conjunction with those assisters by using your own piss. Now, I would say that maybe 3/4 of you, maybe 99% of you are thinking, so Terry, have you been pissing in your kitchen scraps waste bucket that you then fill to the top and then take it down and put it into the least full of your compost tubs? I've got 3 composters. And the answer would be, yeah, I have. Because it makes complete and total common sense. If I can enhance the ingredients within that bucket, which has got soil in there, there's no shit, But if you know any vegans, if you know any proper full-on vegans, just go around, just go, hey up Chardonnay, hey up, oh God, I've had a terrible day trying to grow stuff. Quite new to it, I'm learning. It's a learning curve, a constant learning curve. Anyway, I've got a big favour. Don't know what you think. Would you mind saving your shit for me? Because I want it for the garden. You're not going to do that, are you? And unless you've got